We're going to open the meeting for the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, August 4th, time 4:20. The regular meeting will be called to order. We have letters of communications to the board. We have a board member here, Mr. Sam Lamanche, who would like to say a few things at this time.
Just a clarification from the last meeting. It seems to me that we call it with vote, and I'd like to go back to one of the procedures I use in other boards and things, whatever, in which the clerk would call the roll, and that way we would everybody's vote would be notified in order that you're called. And Patty, you would be acting as the clerk, so you would, and I'm not sure exactly where you would sit here, so we could hear the vote, whatever. So in other words,
you want a roll call vote.
I want to vote, and I want the clerk to call it.
In what order?
Well, actually, I'll tell you what. The way that I've understood it, maybe somebody has a little better order with it. If whatever order you start, in other words, say Mr. Carter would be the first vote, and then whatever the second would start with me, would be him first, and you could work the rotation in which you randomly wish to ask when you have your resolutions what you're going to vote for that particular meeting.
I'd like to take Sam's suggestion and review our bylaws to see what procedures we should follow under the bylaw.
Well, the bylaws don't have a roll call vote, but we can do that if we want.
I think that's what we got to do is look at.
We don't have to change the bylaws to do that.
Actually, you can do it one of two ways. You can have roll call vote on votes that you think it's necessary, and just have regular voice votes otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, there are some, and that's where
you can flow in and out. On a matter where you want a public or you want an official record, call for the roll call vote. On one where like you're passing a budget item or something that's not that important, there's unanimous agreement. You just do it.
I've also seen where the chairman, after they listen, chairperson after he or she listens to the vote, said that's a unanimous vote, and then a person who otherwise wants to dissent, would at that point in time say, no, I'd like to oppose that motion. So at that point in time, you can say, clerk, please poll the. And that would make it easier because we have a lot of things, to be quite honest, that are pretty routine. You know, rents and handling agreements. I got to tell you, I think it might lengthen a lot for our meeting to be roll call vote everything. So my suggestion would be is call the vote. If there's any question or someone wants to vote and oppose it, it's their obligation to speak up and say, I oppose it. And then chairperson should ask Patty to call a roll. So it's kind of a hybrid, so it's streamlined.
Okay. So noted.
There are some additional letters and communications I want to bring to the board's attention. Specifically, there's a news article from the Associated Press in your packet. Bad bridges passed up for stimulus cash. A little close to home on that one. There's a letter we received July 23rd from New York State DOT regarding the border crossing improvements, strictly relating to the toll booth relocation. DOT indicates the project is currently scheduled for letting later this year with construction late next season. This is now a 2010 project for the toll booth relocation as far as construction. There's a nice note in here from CSL Maritime regarding the wonderful job that was done by the folks at the port, the frictionless handling of salt.
Close to being seamless.
And there's one other thing I'd like to withdraw from the packet, unless it's already been changed. It looks like mine already has been. The Public Border Operators Association, June numbers, 2008, 2009. First one that went out, I think, was 2006, 2007 packet. But that's the only notations under letters.
We have 6, 7, and 8, 9.
Letters and communications to the board.
Approval of the board minutes.
Mona is on station.
So we don't have any?
She anticipated
Okay. For comments and presentations by citizens regarding the agenda items, at this time we'll make an exception and have CNS Engineering go ahead with their presentation.
Jim, this covers the two items that we're talking about there.
The packet I handed out to you earlier, some of you just joined us and have it.
Someone could have my copy. Steve, you can have mine. I got one, man.
Item 4 on this agenda, called Jim's agenda, not your agenda. Item 4 is an airport wildlife study. And I got a call yesterday from the FAA asking if 3 airports would be interested in having a wildlife study performed beginning in 2009. There's some funds available, Messina, Ogdensburg, and Ithaca. And the reason they're calling is there was an incident not too long ago on the airport, coyote and an aircraft. And because of the fairly low number of aircraft operations in Ogdensburg, that percentage of potential strikes is very high in Ogdensburg. That combined with, I heard someone, Steve, that there was an incorrect report for Ogden, Utah, was applied to Ogdensburg, New York. So the FAA is asking if the airport would consider a grant for doing a wildlife assessment study, which is a full year's assessment every month. There's a specialist that would come to the airport, evaluate, walk the entire airport, look for problem areas of wildlife, both ground and birds, look at the wetland areas, look at maintaining grass, and there'd be a report at the conclusion of that.
Go ahead.
Now, there was a, in the back of your packet here, that's in Jim's packet, on page 6, there was a one-day review done by Bluemakers Wildlife Management as a sub-consultant to CNS, and that was at the request of Evelyn Martinez, I believe, Steve, that suggested that, and again, they're kind of focusing on Ogdensburg, and they're asking if Ogdensburg would be interested in funding. Again, the call came in yesterday. This report summarizes kind of existing conditions, a quick look at what they found. There are some concerns. There are some areas in the perimeter fence that need attention, and we'll be addressing those later this year through a contract with the state. State is funding. But the last page, their last page, page 10, in the middle of the page, they've come to the conclusion. Of course, these folks are somewhat self-supporting. I want to point that out to you. This is the business they're in. But they say, based on the site visit and review of available records, Bluemakers Wildlife Management has determined that Ogdensburg International Airport meets criteria 3 for initiating a wildlife hazard assessment. And they're talking about the accident that occurred between a landing gear collapse and a coyote. And then they found Canadian geese and American crow were observed in the flight pattern, and those are a bit of a concern. So they're recommending an evaluation be made, and the FAA is asking if the sponsor is interested in having this performed. They would fund it 95%. And I don't have the real hard cost for this. In the care plan, we estimated $45,000. I'm going to say it's around $50,000 just as a cushion today. We have not, CNS can do this also, this work, but we would most likely sub-consult with Bluemakers. They've been here. They've been very familiar with this work. So my question of you is, are you interested in doing this work? It's eligible 95%. And if you are, there is a condition by which you'd be asked to execute a grant by the end of August. This all came to me yesterday. Wade and I talked about bringing it to today's board.
So the point is we'd have need for special board.
The conclusion of this will be a full assessment, full report. The FAA likes to see these reports. there'd be a mitigation plan, whatever they find. I know right now you have pyrotechnics, you have harassment going on. There may be a height need to do that more. They'd be looking at the deer population, both outside and inside the fence, any other large mammals, birds. There'd be a report. And there is not only Ogdensburg, Messina, and Ithaca are in the same boat. They're being asked the same question. And it's because there are some funds available for this. They'd like to know if you would like to do this in the remaining part of the 2009 FAA program, which ends in
Now,
September.
with their suggestions of things that we can and should do, will there then be access for us for money for better fences and harassment techniques and that sort of thing? Do you have any idea? Would they hook those things together if they're asking, if they're going to give us 95% to do this study? Do you think there's any available grant money thereafter to actually initiate those suggestions?
There would be on fencing, but not on patrol, not on harassment. That's under the airport certification manual. That's the obligation you take on as an airport sponsor. Your staff and your knowledge of what to do would come out of this report. Where there's some certain hot areas where there's more birds or maybe large mammals congregating. I'm sure that the people in the airport that maintain the airport that have done that for a number of years know the airport very well. The wildlife management folks do not. So it's a combination of interviews with the staff, what they see on a month, every month they visit.
Where the animals
They
come
do
from,
it
where they nest.
at night, where they're passing, where they're moving. And there are some things that can be done to reduce the amount of potential for accidents. But regarding funding for staff or pyrotechnics, that is not right now in the...
The only thing you'll foresee is them maybe helping with some fencing costs.
Fencing, you do have a $730,000 fencing grant from New York State already from last year.
Right.
My personal concern is, Steve and I have talked about this already, should we put back an 8-foot fence with 3 strands of barbed wire, or should we go to a taller fence, which is the normal deer fence, 10 or 12 feet in the back area where it's heavily wooded? Certainly this report was done would give us better indication where the deer are migrating to and from, and where additionally a fence of additional height would be warranted versus the 8-foot fence.
Jim, we were just kind of having a quick side discussion down here regarding Loomacre's wildlife management.
Yes.
If we initiate, if board decides to initiate a wildlife hazard assessment at the special meeting in August, how does that work? Does it go out to bid, or is it automatically Loomis, or who does that? How does that process work?
In the past, we've hired Loomacres as a sub-consultant to CNS. We've done that many times. We're doing one for us in Syracuse and Plattsburgh. CNS also has certified people to do it, but because the distance, really can't compete, to be honest with you, with our fees versus their fees. Just can't do it. They're in the business to do this. So we would most likely hire them under your agreement you have with CNS as under a term agreement. We would hire them as a sub-consultant.
But
Not have to go through a selection
It
process.
doesn't go through a bid process. Why not?
That's not eliminate
Professional
bids.
service. Professional service.
We'll eliminate bids, let him do it.
Okay.
He does it. Let him hire Loomis to do it.
Thanks.
Okay.
When would the startup of this be if it would last a whole year?
We last the whole year. As soon as the agreement is signed between CNS and Bridgeport Authority, we start within a month. For the whole year, winters, spring, summer.
Where's Warnersville? Where are they out of? Northeast Warnersville, but I don't know
Like
what county.
Cobblestone.
Cobblestone, okay.
So I need to get back to the FAA. I need to put the pressure on everybody. I need to get back to the FAA on whether the Bridgeport Authority is interested in a grant this year. And
You have to tell them tomorrow, you said.
that's what I extended a day, basically.
So we're not talking about a special meeting, we're talking about an agenda item tonight.
Well, we don't have the specifics. Generally, we don't bring an agenda item before the board unless we have specifics.
So to accept a particular grant. So we won't have an agenda item until they give us a grant.
Exactly. So what we're looking for at this point is there a consensus of the board? Is this something to pursue? Being that the specifics would be handled at the special board meeting in August once we get the details.
What does Steve Belgard think? Has anybody talked to Steve up there and thought of this idea, or does he have a good handle on where our animals are migrating from? Does he think this would be helpful? Did anybody talk to Steve? No?
Mm-hmm.
What does he think?
Yeah. We need to reevaluate. We had one done by the USDA, Jim, back in 2000. And,
10 years.
yeah, and we've been based all of our wildlife control based on that.
Okay.
Well, we want to know,
could update it then.
maybe there's something we need to change out there.
Sounds good to me.
Do we have to carry insurance for these planes coming in and out the airport? Like that plane that hit the coyote. We have no responsibility on that?
I'd have to, if that happened before I was here, I'd have to review the files and I can get back to you on that.
I wondered if a deal like this it would help our insurance.
I don't know. It's a good question. I'll get back to you.
How much of the fence has got to be done this year, you said?
$730,000, I believe, is what you have in the grant. And that is 100% funded by the state because it's a security-related project. There's no local share. And
So how many feet do you think that'll be?
$40 a foot. Depends on what we do, Fred. To extend that, we're talking to Steve about possibly is actually leaving the foundations. Because the foundations are in a lot of wetland areas, we're considering leaving the foundations in place, removing the fabric, removing the top rail or the top brackets, sliding a taller pipe over the top, reattaching fabric, and if we do that, it'd be less cost than the conventional price of around $38 per foot. So,
And you could sleeve either an 8-foot or a 10 to 12
yes,
foot.
yeah, we've done this before at airports. It seems to be the way to go when you're working in an environmentally sensitive area. We can get a lot of your remaining 6 and 7 foot fence that you have at the airport. We can get a lot of that replaced with the standard 8 or 10.
So a lot of 6 to 7 foot fence would be taken down.
Yes.
And would that come back to us, the fence?
If you like. If you want the fabric.
Oh, definitely we want the fence.
I'm looking at Steve.
Yeah, we know where that comes from.
Yeah, I had some given to me the last time, but it seems the port took it away.
It's not like
Which isn't paid for. That's funny.
And Jim, you had
We're going to need the fence out.
one additional item on the
Yep.
AA apron expansion rehab you wanted to talk about?
Steve had shared with me that there was interest in where the old hangar, wooden hangar, called the bus garage hangar, has now been removed.
So do we.
Now been removed. There's a foundation there. Steve had reported that, Terry did, that there was interest in repaving that footprint, paving that. And when I heard that, I said, well, you have to remember the reason we took that hangar down was because it was in the runway protection zone. And we should not be having any vehicles, any congregation of people. Half of that hangar is in that area. So I want to talk to you about that. That it wouldn't be my recommendation to pave it all. I'm not so sure I'd pave any of it because there's available paving space where the old apron was. We're going to leave that, pushing snow. We shouldn't be parking aircraft over there. But I just want to talk to the board about I guess the interest in paving that old foundation area, and I would discourage the board from doing that.
Well, that would attract people to be where they shouldn't, where if we leave it.
We tried to park aircraft, we asked the FAA to park aircraft in the area where the runway protection zone is identified. Because we have an apron that's expanded now and there's adequate parking, the recommendation is no, parking aircraft over there. The reason for that is in case an aircraft does find itself in an area where it shouldn't be, you want it to be able to cover the operation or recover safely in a smooth area, and certainly it's not going to do that if there's aircraft vehicles. First Route 812 is right there. Just by chance, if there was an accident, an aircraft had to skid along the runway. Better not to have anything of hard nature there than not. So I recommend that area not be paved.
Does that also mean that the tie downs then would have to come out of the
No.
existing, or they
No.
left as is?
We actually are taking some of those tie downs down, but really through management at the airport, you shouldn't need those tie downs made. Once the new apron is built, there's adequate space. Once it's complete, I see no reason to use those tie downs.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. We're going to go out of order here for a minute before continuing to the executive director's report. We would like to have a short recess for executive session for, go ahead.
Need a brief executive session to discuss proposed acquisition of real property.
Shouldn't take over 10
I'll make a
minutes.
motion.
Do we have a second, Sam?
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. We're going to name the fence after you. Danny got the border station, Looney got the
No,
airport.
he ain't taking the fence away from me
It's
this
going to be
time.
the Frederick J. Carter fence. Recently.
Last
This
week.
is the first meeting. We've seen them. Aren't they cool? I love that one too. The turbine one. And that was crystal clear. Yeah, isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? They're actually going to be like that one, especially like
That's the
right at
engine we
power
needed
line.
to get.
That was helpful.
Did I tell you I went on the engine? I'll tell you. Back on. Okay, we're back from an executive session. There's no action going to be taken on the issues at this time. So we'll move right into the executive director's report. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of highlights from the period report. Met several times over several issues with CNS engineers regarding the airport. The apron expansion and rehabilitation work is continuing out there. As far as the Port of Ogdensburg, a couple of events that went on this past month, the St. Lawrence Seaway 50th anniversary, 49th Annual Seaway Festival here in Ogdensburg. We do have a draft comprehensive master plan report and North Country Transportation Freight Needs Study that we're working with the consultant on. Working with staff on two large-scale bulk commodity clients. Interfacing with New York State DOT, with the railroad on a couple of different issues. As far as the bridge, continuing to stay in touch with New York State DOT on the FHWA agreement status. That's the toll agreement that we talked about before. That's within DOT. Toll booth relocation project, as I mentioned, is slipped to a 2010 construction at this point. We're notified by DOT. I've had several conversations with both main office and regional office regarding the federal funding for the bridge program. We've also completed the board tours of the railroad this past month as well. Several various discussions. Coming up in the near future, we need to get that port master plan update wrapped up. We're still focusing on the bridge rehabilitation project and the $90 million need. And we'll be exhibiting at CanWIA, which is the Canadian Wind Energy Association in Toronto this year.
When's that?
That is coming up September 21 through 23.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have one. Did you say that the toll booth, which was going to be 100% funded by the state, now is at 2010?
That has slipped to a 2010 construction. There is a letter from Kerry Babiak, the regional director of DOT, in the board meeting file.
Well, did he give us a reason that we can tell that?
This letter was prompted by a letter that I had sent to DOT asking specifically about this project and expressing concerns of the authority that some of the plan specification and engineering had not been completed yet. The letter response from DOT on July 22nd basically said that the project is currently scheduled for letting later this year with construction slated next season. So that just slipped from a 2009 construction to a 2010 construction.
They're going to fund it.
Yes.
Okay. I misunderstood.
Yep, there's been no change in the funding. It's just a delay in the construction.
Jackson, a minute.
Yeah. He's retired now, right?
Yes, August 20th.
Chief Financial Officer's report, do you have that?
I do. Mark's actually on vacation this week, but as far as the operating report, the bridge traffic report, and the airport activity report are in folder. The independent financial statement audit, the federal tax return for the border station has not been completed as of yet. but he'll have that for you next month. The Division of Budget has made inquiries and is in the process of reviewing the 2009-2010 budget and the fourth supplemental repayment agreement. There's an important decoupling here. Originally, they had coupled the fourth supplemental payment agreement with approval of the 2009-2010 budget. Since that time, they've decoupled the two. Paris filing with the public authority information has been complete. Toll collector information and orientation meetings have been completed. He's done some work with paychecks for the purpose of reviewing payroll services proposal provided. I expect that'll probably be before the committee in the near future. There's an outstanding audit item. The physical inventory of authority assets will be completed by mid-August.
Who's doing that, Wade?
That is a combination of Debbie and Mark. Did I get that date right? I thought it was mid-August. Was it mid?
We do it, it's most beneficial.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you. And that'll address the outstanding item from the audit. The balloon payment, I don't want to get the name wrong. Fourth supplemental repayment agreement is in the packet tonight as well. It's on the agenda.
Been completed.
No, it has not been completed yet. But the agenda item, we do have an agenda item that sets the terms at $75,000 for 5 years. That's agenda item 8.3. Nice.
That's passed and it's in,
The director of the budget has to still sign off.
we don't know if he's in agreement with it.
That's correct. We have not.
But until we give them authority to sign off, have them to agree.
I thought we were, last time we did that, we reached an agreement with the controller's office, and we passed the resolution here.
Yeah, at the last board meeting, it was brought up that the supplemental agreement needed to be before the board for approval. So what we're doing, we're catching the cart up to the horse here, I guess, for lack of a better term. We had already, last month, we had already sent the fourth supplemental agreement out. That was the 5-year term, $75,000 payment. And the agenda item basically closes.
From our end.
I forget who requested that at the last meeting, but that's why it's here on the agenda.
Any other questions? Wait on Mark's report. Director of Industrial Development, John Rich, Commercial.
We've had somewhat of an increase in inquiries for different bulk commodities, and we've priced out and provided estimates, everything from coal to fertilizer to animal feed additives and some additional salt shipments, and conducted follow-up on heavy lift opportunities that are still out there. In addition, later this week we'll be meeting with another port facilities interested in exploring bulk shipments of agricultural feeds and agricultural products out of Ogdensburg. It's just a concept at this point in time. Senate Appropriations Committee has included the port in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers draft budget in the amount of $70,000 for a dredging study, and we need to work on getting a sponsor in the Congress as well, now that Q's likely to vacate that seat.
When would you hear that, Jeff?
No action next month. They're on recess. Not sure when they would actually take it up. Yes.
There's actually two parts to this too. There's $30,000 this year. It's present. The $70,000 is a separate set of dollars. That is actually first one and 30,000. So it's kind of like phase 2 of the project may become available for the phase 1. Trying to sort through that.
Chairperson Carter, Wade and I had a good meeting with Senator Schumer's regional staff, talking about a number of different funding needs out there. We had the director and chairman of the American Great Lakes Port Association here, gave a tour of the facilities. There's a meeting in September, October, Great Lakes Ports Association. We may attend.
Yes.
Talk about short sea shipping opportunities. We're registered now for CanWIA, which is in Toronto, September 20th and 23rd. Very similar to the American Wind Energy Association that we've already attended this year. A lot of the same players. The exhibiting there, 2,000 attendees and 300 exhibitors. Play some display ads. Looking at doing Port Commerce Day in late September, early October. Main focus right now is writing the Tiger Grant application with Wade's and Steve's assistance. We had three inquiries actually from the mailing that we did, and I have talked to companies in the Quebec area that we're hoping will come in the next 2 to 3 weeks for a tour of facilities. In conjunction with the JEDC, we registered for the Eastern Ontario Economic Showcase, which is being billed as a exclusive business development event in Eastern Ontario. It's important that we have a presence there. Some of the speakers include Donald Trump, Terry Matthews, who's a billionaire, is part owner of some of the businesses here in the industrial park. We got classified ads running in the Citizen, and then placed some ads for the T hangar and the main new hangar in Canadian Pilots Association publications to see if we can get any response about it.
John, I got a question here. When you have new prospects, do we go to them or do they come to us? I mean, how does it really work? Sometimes does it go both ways?
Like an
If
industrial
somebody wants
prospect.
to, obviously, the wind turbines,
Yeah.
they came to us. It's okay, but I mean, how about the other factors? How do we go?
Well, we actually went to Winter Prospect. We went to them first. Industrial prospects, if we set up, usually when we do a mailing, we will initiate a visit to them. In this case, they want to come here. Not sure why. I just want to take a look at our facility. I do know why. There's another prospect that we're working with that has already been here and has encouraged them to take a look at us as well. So they want to come down a couple weeks to look at the facility. Important inquiries, it's a combination of different things. It's outreach. We hear about different projects. We reach out to them, go to them. A lot of cases, other times, if they're nearby, they'll come here and want to see the facility. So it's a combination.
I was just wondering, how you're courting, how the courtship is working, those type of things. I mean, obviously, people got to see the port, they got to see what we have.
We always offer, though, to go to them, make that initial contact. That's they do.
How's your French go?
How's your friend Bush?
Any questions of the board? Okay. Director of Operations, Steve Lawrence.
I'll just touch on a few things in each area there. If you've got any other questions, just shoot them at me there. We did a survey and an estimate of everybody's kind of aware of that hailstorm that we had about a month ago, and we had significant damage to the HVAC units. We reviewed a lot of that in the facilities committee there, but I can give you any details on that. But basically, we laid all that out for the facilities committee, and we can talk in more detail on that. On the bridge, we did install a new Frederick Remington sign up at the toll booth, kind of spruce that up. In the airport, the main thing, we completed the FAA inspection and certification, which took a lot of our time prepping for that, and we did okay with that. Bids for the PAPI installation were received and opened I believe that's an agenda item that'll be discussed. At the port, American Rock Salt keeps bringing in salt probably 2 to 3 times a week. We get shipments, and we're stockpiling that. Currently, we're probably over 40,000 now from when I wrote that. The wood chips have started. That tonnage has gone up a little bit. We're about 400 tons of wood chips. If you take a look down in the port from up above there, you can see we've started. That's over in the corner by the Wall Street property there. Since we last talked, we've received 2 vessels. One was from Morton. One of the largest shipments we've had was 26,400 metric tons of road salt. That's been relocated and being covered now. And North Americans sent us 1 vessel, and that's been relocated to the Inner Harbor and covered. And those are about the highlights from last month. So if anyone's got any questions.
Just general observation. My recreational time near the river, observing boats, whatever going by. I noticed there's not the vessels that this economy is really.
You're exactly right. Yeah. Everybody will back you up on that one. It's just not the same at all. I mean, just from, like you say, observation.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Not there.
Not about 30-40%, say.
World markets, boat markets, everybody is drained.
Yeah. Yep.
Any questions, Steve? Don't forget the fence, Steve.
It's gone already.
I made a note of that.
What fence?
Reports of committees.
Well, I'm not part of the finance committee anymore. I've jumped over to audit. So, but Roger did tell me that he went.
Went and checked on a couple items that I was interested in, and she explained them to me, so I was satisfied.
Okay, Roger. Mary?
The Facilities Committee met today at 3 o'clock, and the purpose of that was to clear probably 4 or 5 agenda items to do with relating to the airport. Vassy and Pappy Construction, for those of you as uneducated as I am in the airport field, Vassy standing for visual approach and Pappy standing for precision approach. We've approved, or we recommended to go on the agenda many items for the airport, including replacement projects, construction, environmental assessment for obstruction mitigation, which has kind of been on the back burner for a while, rehabbing the taxiways. And along with those, of course, is needs to be approval for CNS engineers, fixed fee agreements and consult agreements. We discussed a fencing estimate that Steve received to go along the property line down here that we had our neighbors come talk to us about. That's about a $14,000, $15,000 job. Steve also got us an estimate for conveyor that we had talked about down at the port, about $69,000. He's going to go back to the drawing board, though, I think, and research a bigger conveyor with the eye, or with the purpose being whether or not going with a much more state-of-the-art volume conveyor would actually fit our purposes later on better, looking down the line. So he's going to get another number on that. We have some money still outstanding from a bank grant, about $15,000. We have to wait and look to see if that can be reallocated to this conveyor purchase if we decide to go through with that. We have need to remove some overhead lines down at the port so that we can accomplish and accommodate other cargoes like we had with the wind turbine. Tisdale is expected to be retained for that purpose. Will that be an agenda item? I don't remember that being an agenda item.
No, Tisdale's not an agenda.
Because it's professional?
It was only 3,000, so I can take it.
Okay.
Right. But what you will see is we'll see the cost, specifically what that project is. It's easier to show you than tell you about it. We have an electrical line that runs right down through here. What we're going to do is basically take out the black section of my tent and put that underground, and that provides free clearance into that area for both the conveyors and oversized, over-dimensional cargo for future projects.
And then the last item we discussed, Steve, working with people from Train, got us an estimate of damage to the rooftop units from hail. So now it's time to negotiate, I suppose, with our insurance company over payment for that damage. That was the bulk of it. Most of it, as I said, all of it, except for one item, was actually put on tonight's agenda item. One had to go back to the drawing board because we don't have the money we thought we did for one of the projects, so rework that one.
Questions of Mary's report? Unfinished business. Activities and events. September 1. Anybody got a problem with that date? They're going to run into Labor Day for anybody?
What date is like second?
No. 6th? 7th?
7th.
Is that Saturday? Or Monday, yeah. I'm sorry.
They changed it.
No? That's fine. I was looking at it, so I'm thinking of something else. Okay.
Labor Day party.
No, I was thinking about the 4th of July on that mess. Okay, the business items.
Very relatively light agenda tonight, but a couple important items nonetheless. The first is item A1. Mr. Chairman, when we do get to the Ogdensburg International Airport, I will take some of the items out of order because logically it makes a little bit more sense for what's on the agenda. Item A1, however, is approval of a lease agreement with Callers America Gallery Incorporated. This is a 2-year lease agreement for 180 square feet of space in the second floor of the Bridge Administration Building here at 1164 per square foot, with an annual increase tied to the CPI. Term of the agreement, September 1, 2009 through August 30, 2011. Included in there is also $3 per square foot to cover the cost of utilities. And we require appropriate insurance coverage, naming Bridge and Port Authority as additional insurance.
Is this an existing tenant? Small amount of space.
Yes.
Okay. I'll make the motion.
Mary?
I'll second.
Sam? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Ms. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Hooper?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Agenda item A2 is restriction of net assets for GASB 45 post-employment benefits other than pensions liability. Recall the auditor was in last time, made a recommendation that pursuant to GASB 45, specifically the other than pensions benefit be reserved to the tune of about $61,000. Therefore, based on the independent auditor's recommendation, my recommendation and the CFO's recommendation, we recommend that $61,000 be restricted for this purpose.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mary,
Second.
seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Farley?
Do we need to do this when it's unanimous? Can't Fred ask if it's unanimous? And if somebody says no, then we'll do the roll call? I mean, with a heavy agenda, this is going to get really, yeah, it really could.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
We did do that. So
Okay, is there anybody opposed? To order.
Item A3 is approval of a fourth supplemental agreement between the Bridge and Port Authority and the Director of the Budget of the State of New York. This is the bridge repayment agreement that we were talking about earlier. Terms of the agreement would be $75,000 a year on beginning March 31st, 2010 through March 31st, 2014. We currently owe $19 million and some change on the bridge. Would be repaid annually. We would also include a deferral annual payment. Should we need it, we would need to submit that to the break. And again, the purpose of this, it closes the loop based on our discussion last month.
I have a couple questions. Maybe you can help me with this. I hate to ask him when Mark's not here. Is this agreement identical to what we had before?
Yes, except, with the exception, the term is 5 years. The dates have been changed. It has been updated, one other section here as well.
What was the length of the agreement before?
Not positive, but I want to say it was a 3-year agreement.
3 year.
Was it 3 years, Steve?
You said it's no longer tied to,
It's no longer,
Tied to
again,
budget.
speaking frankly, no longer holding our budget hostage. They're two separate issues and being treated as such by division of budget.
So, for I understand, before asking for a vote on this, if we approve it here tonight, this now goes to the controller to be signed.
This actually has already went last month to the division of budget, based on a conversation that occurred during the CFO's period report last month. It was recommended this be brought to the board for approval.
By them?
And that's why.
By then?
By the
By the controller's office?
Oh, no, the division of budget has not signed off.
Who recommended it to bring to the board before it's approved?
The board wanted to see this agreement, and that's why this had already gotten out the door last.
I remember this agreement before. It was completed, negotiations were all completed. We were asked to approve the negotiated agreement between the two parties. This time we're being asked to approve this agreement to submit it to the party.
Yeah.
Is that the way it is?
Yes, because specifically what was discussed here at the board meeting last time was that the board wanted to see the terms and conditions of this agreement prior to it being submitted to the division budget. There was no way to do that because it had already left on the division budget. So therefore, we're just closing the loop and putting it before you at this point.
I guess we would explain my concerns. Anybody else got any concerns?
Just a short question. The $19 million, does any interest accrue on that at all?
No, that is one of the things that's unique about this agreement is the funds are repaid without interest. So it is $19 million, but it's $19 million without interest.
It'll take a lot of years and $75,000 to crack.
Most certainly
You really
will.
bite into that at all.
they've reminded us that several times. Ask us to actually buy it from them.
Yeah, for $1.
Yeah.
It needs $90 million worth of repairs. It's worth less than $1.
Yeah.
I guess after it's been fully discussed,
But this is not time sensitive. This can be held over until next month.
well, I mean, I
Is
think
the purpose then for this to be, for us to have the information spread, and then what would you like to see then once it comes back, then we ratify it? But to me, if it goes out with his signature on it, that gives him some sort of apparent authority that,
I just want to ask the questions because I don't want to send this down to the controller's office with our signature and have them say, hey, we didn't agree to all this stuff.
so you want to ratify it after it comes back?
I want
tonight?
both parties to agree to a document and bring it back to us, the same as we do negotiations and anything else. Bring it back to the board for ratification. I don't know if the other party's in the loop here on this, but since Mark wants to do it this way, this is the way Mark wants it done.
He's
No.
a board member.
We have no indication. I mean, division of budget come back and say $76,000.
Well, when Dan Dupree, I believe at one time, somebody negotiated this, and I remember it very clearly, he brought it back to us that both parties have agreed to this agreement, and we made a resolution and
But the reason it's in front of us tonight is a board member asked for it.
A board member had asked for this at the last meeting to be brought, and that's why it's here. Otherwise, it would be agenda.
You would have signed it
Basically-
and then reported back to us.
It's basically just a proposal to continue the repayment term
Right.
that existed for the past 3 years.
Yes.
I don't see a problem.
Did you make a motion, Dan?
I do.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. That's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Specifically, I'd like to start with agenda item B1 and then kind of proceed in logical order from there. Agenda item B1 is the approval of the grant with the Federal Aviation Administration. This is for the replacement of the visual approach system and the precision approach system. The total project is $205,000. The grant amount from FAA is $194,750. It's funded on a 95, 2.5% basis between FAA, New York State DOT, and OBPA.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Have a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Folks, I'd like to direct your attention to agenda item B4, approval of contract with S&L Electric. On page 20 of your document. This is the authority solicited bids for the replacement runway 9227 VASI PAPI visual approach system and precision approach system. As follows, there were the bidders that you see there. S&L Electric was low bidder at $171,300. Again, the financing recapped. It's a $205,000 project funded at 95, 2.5 FAA, DOT, and OBPA. S&L was deemed to be the qualified low bidder. And, we're recommending award of the contract for $171,300.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that.
John, or Roger? Mary seconded? All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to direct your attention to agenda item B2 at this point, which is on page 18 of the document. This is approval of a grant of the FAA. Specifically, this project is a $50,000 grant offer from FAA for construction analysis on the runway. The total portion of this project is $52,632. It's a $50,000 grant from FAA, with a remaining 2.5% respectively picked up by each agency.
I move. Steve? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Roger? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So ordered.
I'd like to turn your attention to agenda item B5, approval of a cost-plus fixed fee agreement with CNS Engineers. And that's located in your packet. Page 21, thank you. This is for an environmental assessment for obstruction mitigation. The scope of the project includes necessary professional services related to the completion of the required project. The authority has been notified that only a portion of the project will be funded during 2009. There's a total project cost on this of $219,631. However, $50,000 is being funded through FAA at this point.
And because we expected it to be more than $100,000, they already did an independent fee estimate. Yeah, that's done. We have more work to be done on it. We have more money.
That's correct.
I'll make the motion.
Mary makes the motion.
I'll second.
Sam seconds it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I'd like to direct your attention to page 19 of your packet, agenda item B3, approval of a grant for the FAA. This is for $95,000 from the FAA for rehabilitation of taxiway A, B, and C at airport. Project funding is $100,000 in total, $95,000 from FAA, and the remaining 2.5% from each agency.
We have a motion?
I'll move that.
Roger seconded it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item B6 on page 22 of your agreement follows logically here. This is approval of a lump sum consultant agreement with CNS Engineers for the taxiway A, B, and C rehabilitation project. Again, just to recap, it's a $100,000 project, $95,000 from FAA.
I'll make the motion.
Mary makes the motion. Do we have a second? Steve? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes business under the airport, and there are no additional matters before the board. Yeah, that's
B7 fell over.
Yes.
If we don't introduce it.
Gotcha.
We can find it, doesn't it? No,
No, we're going to hold off on that.
the numbers, remember we gotta negotiate the numbers, we don't have enough money.
Comments, including comments from citizens, board members, authority, and staff. Yes, sir.
My name is Steve Malone. I'm the president of Local 051, Port Authority Employees Association. I'd like to comment on a few things that have transpired since the last board meeting. Some things that appeared in the paper. And I've got about 6 things. Number one, newspaper article, Ogdensburg Journal on July 8th. Mr. Davis claimed that the toll collector hiring discussion and OBPA authority desire to enter into a collective bargaining agreement in recognition of the authority's responsibility to the general public and to its employees to render to the public the maximum of efficient and beneficial service, establishing and maintaining fair and intelligent relations with its employees, the performance of the authority's prescribed responsibilities, and recognizing the innate dignity of each employee as a person. I feel personally, and I feel that this is lacking from the executive director's office. In terms of the hiring scheduling also, in the Watertown Daily Times on July 8th again, Mr. Davis claimed that the CSEA agreement required the authority to advertise the openings publicly. This is not completely true. As union president, I have the authority to vacate this requirement on a case-by-case basis. I notified Mr. Davis of this in a letter to him from me dated on May 7th, 2009. I would expect also that Mr. Carter, as a union official, would know this. And you should know also that in the past, employees have been elevated permanent full-time status from part-time status. This has happened in the past. The Ogdensburg Journal on July 13th, quoting Mr. Davis again, part-time employees weren't considered because they are not CSEA represented. Article 2, Section 1 of the contract states, the Ogdensburg Bridge Port Authority, by this agreement, as the sole and exclusive bargaining representative for all Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority employees permanently appointed to budget personal items as shown on Schedule A5, which is attached to the contract. Part-time employees do not have a position on the schedule. And I hope this is not the case, but it seems to me that this was a deliberate attempt to mislead the public. And if that's the case, then I think an apology is in order. On July 8th, quoting Mr. Carter now, talking about positions, poll collector positions. We have got the position and we've got the money. That's what he said. A few months ago, when we asked to begin negotiations to fill a certain position, utility work position, we were told by Mr. Davis that there was absolutely no money in the budget for unfilled positions. Also, Mr. Carter then said, also quoting, we were supposed to be creating full-time jobs. Okay?
if you feel that this is important, I'd like to remind everybody here that according to Schedule A5, regular service positions indicate that one general mechanic position is open, one relief coal collector or assistant paint foreman position is open, one utility worker position is open, and one senior stenographer position is open, all of which are unfilled. As you have seen, you, the board, have been and will be asked to make important decisions. And believe me, I have a respect for authority. And I'm not saying that every time something goes down the pipe, you got to run it by Steve here, make sure that he's okay with it. I'm not saying that at all. You know, you're going to have to make decisions. You know, some business decisions and other personnel decisions involving employees. It's apparent to me, and many others I may add, that at times you are asked to make these decisions based on incorrect, inadequate information, and sometimes no information at all, from the executive director or board chairman. I don't think that you can possibly make good, effective decisions if this process continues, since the executive director's office has, in the past situation, I believe prevented me from providing information to the board. I will continue to use this forum to provide whatever information I have available to me, and CSEA Local 051 and CSEA as a whole. With good information on both sides of an issue, you can then make the best decisions possible. The letter that I sent to all of you folks, I gave you my contact information, and I'm available at any time. Also, and take this to the bank, you don't have to put your question in writing, and I don't have to submit it to CSA Legal for an answer. I'll give you the best answer that I can possibly get, as quickly as I can possibly get. I just wanted to clear those items up that were printed in that were in the paper. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, I have a comment regarding our case.
Would you just give us the name, please?
My name is Bart.
Okay, thank you, Bart. Ms. Restwood.
Regarding the letters to the etiquette that was July 19, and again on 26th, in the advanced Sunday paper. There were some questions asked from the public, and I was wondering if the board, the executive director, or the chairman, and addressing that question to get the answers to.
To be very honest with you, I'm not going to answer them because I didn't even read them. And I don't look at the newspaper, read them kind of letters. And I don't respond to them.
What about you, Mr.?
I have no response. Everything I've said is on record, above board. Thank you. I said everything I said is on record and above board and documented. Thank you.
Anything else?
That itself answer to the question.
There's one other person. Debbie? Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Debbie Abe, and I hold the position of Assistant Accountant here at the Ogdensburg Authority. On August 27th, I will have been for 25 years, excuse me. That makes me third on the seniority list here. Be assured that I'm both appreciative and grateful for the opportunities that my employment here has afforded me. I had always been a very proud member of this. Before I start, I would like to apologize for airing my concerns in such a public manner, but feel I've been given no other choice. I've come before you today to tell you that I'm deeply disturbed by the internal atmosphere here at the Ogdensburg. I've seen a lot of changes over the years, but never have I been so concerned. I remember being a new employee here. I had 6 years under my belt, performing the same duties that I'd been assigned here at the Bridge Authority. I was in like Flynn, as they say. didn't take me long to realize that working for a public authority of the state of New York was a whole different atmosphere and ballgame than the Ogdensburg Oil Corporation, Park University, my previous. I had some things to learn, and learn I did by listening to the more experienced members of the staff and giving them the chance to teach me. These days, when people ask me about the OBPA, I tell them, yes, I still work here, but I'm embarrassed to say so. It shouldn't be that way. Recent events are only a small portion of my concerns, but truly represent the straw that broke this campus back, thus prompting my appearance here today. Before I go any further, I want to thank each and every member of the Board of Directors for agreeing to be appointed to serve on this. As an active member of other governing boards, I can commiserate with you on how time-consuming this type of volunteer position can be. In this day of governance, especially within the state of New York, the committee structures that are required are all taking much more of our time than we can possibly ever manage. I appreciate your time and pray that you are all to the challenge. I also strongly urge you to take your position as a member of the OBPA Board of Directors very, very seriously. The Ogdensburg Bridgeport Authority is governed by your actions. I urge you to understand that no member of current Board of Directors has had the opportunity to spend sufficient time to truly understand the day-to-day operations, nor should they be expected to, yet the board members are making decisions that affect those operations. Typically, the board would take direction from the executive director, who should be taking direction from his experienced and knowledgeable staff, who have the hands-on day-to-day experience to be making those recommendations. Recent decisions tell me that this scenario is not holding true here at the OBPA. Our executive director has only been with us about 3.5 years, and to my knowledge has not had the time or taken the time to get a true handle on what happens around here day to day. Maybe he shouldn't be expected to. Yet he is constantly ignoring the advice from his knowledgeable and experienced staff. We can only ask ourselves who he is taking advice from, because items coming before the board and statements made to the press have caused great concern among staff and the public. For example, during last month's board meeting, you were asked to approve the appointment of 2 toll collectors to fill 2 vacancies. Now, we did have a toll collector retire in April of this year, but the last person to effectively retire from the toll collector position was John Durr in 1992. Others have left the position for other jobs within the OBPA, and over time the decision was made to work 4 regular toll. We have been operating on a schedule of 4 regular toll collectors for at least the last 5 years. All that aside, do you realize that you, the board, approved an unbudgeted expenditure of almost $50,000 as wages and fringe benefits, or prorated for this budget year about $35,000? Unbudgeted. From the minutes, I understand that only one of you questioned the fact that we would be filling 2 toll collector positions instead of the 1 position as advertised. Do you also realize that the OBPA Employees Association bargaining agreement calls for a 30-day notice to the union in the event of a change to the toll schedule, the change here being from a schedule of 4 regular toll collectors to a schedule of 5? This notice was given to CSEA on July 8th, the day after the board meeting. The new collectors' appointments were effective on July 22nd, 15 days. And the new schedule will be put in place around August 8th or 9th. I can't see it. In essence, you've hired new people, appointed them before we had room for both of them on the schedule. Do you realize that the actions of the executive director and the personnel committee caused the loss of at least 4 of the relief toll collectors? The executive director was quoted as saying that there was no disruption in the toll collecting schedule and the bridge would be covered. I suppose that's one interpretation, but it would not be mine, since the resignations left 22 vacant shifts between July 8th and July 31st, and I know for a fact that 1 employee worked at least 27 hours of time to cover the toll. I don't have the statistics on how much overtime was actually paid, but I know there was more. Are you also aware that the chief financial officer was not allowed to sit in on the interviews for the toll collector position? Not allowed. I found that very strange, since it is his department that is most directly affected. I also found it very disturbing that the decision was made not to hire any of the relief toll collectors without ever having contacted appropriate staff for performance evaluations regarding any of these efforts. I'm really scratching my head here trying to decide why none of them were chosen, as you should be. In fact, the last regular toll collector to be hired, John O'Grady, was in fact a part-time temporary groundsperson and a relief toll collector. But that's all water over the dam or under the bridge, and I hope we can. I just felt it important for the board to realize some of what happened or didn't happen that no one questioned. As for the other personnel issue, the bridge crew member increase. Almost 6 years ago, with a vacancy in the assistant paint foreman position, Jim Dupree stepped forward and asked to work with bridge maintenance. This is an employee who was born with bridge in his blood. His father helped build this bridge. His father retired here as director of operations, and Jim has been on staff here at the OBPA since 1990. Last year, he approached his supervisor and he asked if it was possible for him to be upgraded to the vacant assistant paint foreman position, which would carry an upgrade from his current grade 9 to a grade 10. He'd been doing the work for a few years, proved himself, and felt it was time to ask. His supervisor told him he would see what he could do. In essence, this employee was working out a cut. After a long tug of war, a proposition was recently made to him. In lieu of an upgrade and change in title, the OBPA would give him $1 an hour when the general maintenance mechanic, essentially the paint foreman, was not on the bridge. To say this was a slap in the face would be putting it mildly. It was more like a strong kick somewhere much. Obviously, the staff making the offer had no inkling of the foul. For at least 5 years, Jim and the general maintenance mechanic have been alternating weeks of coming in an hour early every day to ready the equipment for the day's use. The general maintenance mechanic rarely, if ever, takes vacation time during what we call bridge season. He stays all this time up the call. On most days, there are 2 active crews on the bridge, typically working in 2 totally different locations. Bridge is a mile down. I don't know about you, but I'd want to make sure that I had at least one regular employee supervising each one. Can you imagine the logistical nightmare for the payroll clerk to track when the increase was supposed to be paid? Again, the decisions have been made. This longtime dedicated employee is now mowing lawns instead of being able to utilize his skills and knowledge what is most needed and useful. All for the sake of less than $2,000 a year. That's what the upgrade cost. But hey, go ahead. Give a stipend to a temp. For those of you who have employees, sometimes speaking with board members, I have to ask, is this the way you would reward your long-standing dedicated employees if you have the chance to recognize them? To slap them and say no thanks? I would not. In conclusion, I would like to ask you, the OBPM Board of Directors, to sit up and take this. Ask questions of the appropriate staff. Ask yourselves if you have enough information to make appropriate decisions. Ask why other staff members sit here with their heads bowed, why it would appear that they are not allowed to answer questions. I've only attended a few board meetings over the years, and it's becoming increasingly alarming at the lack of respect for the rest of staff, both in and out of the board meetings, especially as they are the ones with the hands-on day-to-day experience. I also have to wonder if they've been subjected to veiled threats and innuendos as I was. I'm still here. I keep asking myself, what would turn dedicated, caring people into someone who appears to be just doing what needs to be done? If you are wondering about the lack of support from the other members of the union, why aren't there more of us here today? Most of them are worried about repercussions. I told them not to worry. If things are allowed to continue the way we are going, there may not be any jobs. That's how serious I feel. On a smaller note, I would like to recommend a little bit of training for the board in parliamentary procedure. And this goes to what Sam said earlier. If possible, I feel with such a small board and also with so many board members, this may be a good time to start calling roll call votes, such as the city of Ogdensburg does. And along with what you were saying, Mary, about how that could be very time-consuming, I think what would help is if you identify the issues, say personnel issues, that would be
or when the chairperson says,
yes.
Is there any opposition or abstention,
Exactly.
then you do that.
That would help you say it. It's help us. The other boards that sit there. That way, by taking a roll call vote, if the newspaper publishes voting numbers about votes on, the executive director won't have to be reviewing the tapes of the meeting for accuracy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I promise you all that I will continue to perform my duties to the best of my abilities, as I'm asking you all to do. I pray that the OBPA is around for at least the next 15 years when I reach time stage. Thank you.
Debbie, I'm not finding criticism in what you said, but I want to correct something.
Please.
I did ask several questions.
Okay. Yes, I said that.
Okay.
But my point was only one of these.
But then later on, I think in your statement you said, and there were no questions asked or whatever, we did talk about fringe. I shouldn't say we talked. I asked questions about fringes, things like that. And unless there's more people who ask more questions, how do you have discussion?
That's my whole point.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to correct you. I apologize if I criticized.
No, no.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there anyone else that's got any more comments or anything? If not, a motion to adjourn. See you September 1st.
I'll make a motion.
Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Thank you, folks.
I leave the green.
Frank, you got anything?
I got to talk to Wade.